what's up, guys? This episode of the Independent Trainers Podcast, we have one of my favorite trainers that I work with. We have such amazing conversations. Former Olympian, superstar trainer, Steph. I'm going to butcher your last name. My man Stephen has done so much for people, and I can't wait for you guys to hear his story because I don't think he's really shared this with anyone before. You know, it's so inspiring, and he's just a phenomenal dude. I really think this is going to be a special episode, so strap in.
I want you to go for it.
One more. Okay.
Say it. Vehrlé-Smith.
Vehrlé.
Yeah, it's French.
Smith.
It's French, yeah.
I hit a little too hard, I think.
Yeah.
I think I turned it into Arabic.
It's better than not trying at all. All my school teachers, they butchered that so much.
Where did you go to
Stephanie Vehrlé-Smith. I was like,
Here we are.
yeah.
Well, let's start there.
Okay,
All right.
that's cool.
All right. Let's start at school. First of all,
so-
who are you?
Well, I'm Stefan Vehrlé-Smith, and I grew up in the countryside in England, and I went to a school called Cranbrook Primary School to start with. And there are quite a few local schools around. You had to be like within the catchment area to go to these schools.
Right.
But yeah, teachers would always butcher my name, and so I got used to Stephanie very quickly.
Oh, lovely.
I was like, yeah, sure, that's me.
Well, it's a beautiful name, and you're a beautiful person, so, you know, it kind of comes together. So what was school like for you growing up, man?
Where do I start with that? I told you before, I'm adopted. So I was adopted when I was 6 months old. And, you know, school was great. There are obviously some very frustrating and difficult times as well, just like, you know, anyone else. I would say I had a really good childhood, enjoyed school, I liked school, didn't like studying or homework or anything like that.
Were you good at school?
I wasn't bad at school. I was a B student
It's not
for
bad.
the most part, yeah. But I just enjoyed sports and getting outside and running around, chasing after a ball and that kind of stuff. So
That's such a tremendous opportunity. I feel like we didn't really get a chance to enjoy here. Like in New York, there was no like sports team in the city. There's like no, unless you play like crazy ball,
Right.
like basketball,
Right.
there was no like making it, you know, going outside and like, you know, having a life outside of like that's driven by sport because they just slowly took away the arts
Right.
and movement from where we're from. So
But are you talking, like I've walked around Manhattan and seen some schools with like a playground area.
right, but like
So
back then we were a little more physical, and in the 90s we had a little bit more like PT, like but
Right.
now like my daughter goes to school and they have like gym once a week.
But I'm talking about
know?
I'm talking about school in England is not, you guys call university school.
Oh, do we? Oh, I
Yeah.
guess so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we call university.
Right. But I'm
But
talking about like regular like
Regular like
primary
high school, yeah.
Yeah, like
before 18 years old.
before 18 years old, there's no like, oh, you're just gonna be on this sport, you're gonna be on
Right.
this team for whatever.
Right.
Unless you had like remarkable grades and you went to a really, really good school that specialized in that, like you went to LaSalle or you went to LaGuardia, like they had a
Yeah.
dope basketball team,
Right.
and it could get you to college, and you
Yeah.
were like nice. You had to be nice to even be considered that, and had dope grades, and had great personality. Like it was
But you had PE lessons, surely?
me,
No?
terrible.
I shouldn't say surely. That's
I'm
like,
also
that just shows like where I'm from. Like, surely you have PE lessons.
surely.
Like,
No.
but I don't know any. I might be showing my ignorance here. I don't know any school in the UK that doesn't have some sort of outdoor activity going on, or in the gym. Like when I say the gym, it could be just a hall where you'd have lunch. That's where we used to do like our PE lessons.
Right. Well, the funding here got cut very early on. Like my generation, the generation before me in like the early 90s and the 80s, They had everything. That's why there was so much dope music coming out at that
Right,
time.
right.
Because at school, they learn how to play instruments. They learn how to play. You know how to properly shoot a basketball.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
After the crack epidemic hit, New York and many other places in America,
Right.
it killed all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the militarization of the police started to happen. There's a lot more police brutality, and I think that the overall perspective of like of your interactions in school changed completely.
Right.
You know, like Jay-Z, Biggie Smalls, Busta Rhymes, and I'm forgetting someone, all went to the same high school. You know, like they had the arts.
Right.
They had the arts there, you know, and it was present. But that's like a generation before me, like 10 years before me. So, I don't know, I just kind of left to my own devices. That's how I found martial arts, actually, because
Right.
it was in the street.
Right.
Martial arts is like literally in a
Right.
park somewhere, like 50 people doing kung fu,
Yeah.
and then I just adopted to that.
But even a lot of the guys that you just mentioned, they, you know, developed their skills on the streets as well.
True, but they had each other.
Right, right.
You know, that connectivity, I don't think it really happened here. It was very fortunate that you had that opportunity to
for sure.
you know,
Yeah.
to do that, to like, yo, just like give me a ball and I'm good.
Right.
You know, have this open area.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's also countryside living.
Oh, you're in the country.
Yeah, yeah. So I wasn't in London. I was like, on the train it takes about an hour. So we got space.
Oh, sick.
So we had fields around as well.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
but the thing is I'm not talking about, this is a private school. So my primary school was just a regular school.
Right.
And then the secondary school was just up the road, called Angley School. And after that one, you had the choice to go to basically private school, grammar school. There are some other local ones as well,
Gotcha.
but usually you'd make that transition and go straight to Angley. But we had fields, there was a lot of space, you know.
Well, that sounds dope, man.
Yeah.
But what was that experience like? I imagine that you might have looked and then the experience would be a little different than everybody else. You know, what was that experience like for you?
Well, there weren't that many people that looked like me.
I wouldn't imagine the English countryside.
Right.
Right.
I grew up in Kent.
Shout out to
The
Kent.
Garden of England, by the way.
The Garden of England.
Yes.
That sounds so lovely.
I mean, it is. It's the best county in England.
I'm sure your non-biased opinion.
Yeah,
will
he knows because he's from the,
Point at G, the videographer.
Yeah. I've never really spoken about this, to be honest. Not at depth with people who aren't within, I guess, my inner circle, my close friends and family. But it was strange. I haven't really spoken to my parents about it.
Really?
Yeah. It's
think
funny
they
because we're
wouldn't
doing
understand?
this, but
I mean,
no. I mean, I'll be obviously completely transparent with you, but I never really wanted to burden them or make them feel as if they had done a poor job, because I had an amazing childhood and I had brilliant opportunities. My parents took me to all the local sports clubs, got me music lessons, encouraged me to do anything that I was interested in.
Wow.
So I'm not complaining, and I never wanted to, as an adult, bring that
right.
to my parents, or kind of bring that to even a lot of my friends, because it was funny because looking different, people around you may not, when people say they don't see color and stuff.
Unfortunately, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't see color, but they'll make comments, but you see it as
Right.
well.
You feel it. and
Yeah,
experience it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but at the time I didn't know, I didn't know what that was. This was just my normal. Like
Right.
I didn't know before 6 months old. Like I wasn't like in Brazil in the orphanage being like, I remember this or anything. So
Right.
I had nothing to compare it to. And we had friends and family who are, from different parts of Africa and India, and my parents took me traveling as well. So it wasn't that there was a lack of multicultural exposure or anything. But on a day-to-day at school, at one of my schools, there weren't that many people in the year. It was a private school. I think there were about 80 people in the year, in my year
wow.
group. Yeah.
Very
about
small.
10 to 12 students in a class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very small.
And I think there was a black guy, I think 2 Chinese, I think, and then me.
Right.
And then, like we were talking about yesterday, which camp do you fall in? Because obviously people categorize people even at a young age.
That's very interesting, because in New York was the same way. It's
Right.
like a melting pot.
Right.
But
you still
could
have
be
that.
3 things back in the day. You could be
yeah.
black, white, or Puerto Rican. That's,
Right.
or Chinese. 4
Right.
things back in the day. That was it.
Which is hilarious to me
Yeah.
because moving to New York, people, the first question is, what are you? And that was always such a weird question for me to receive. I've never been asked who am I and where am I from?
Right.
Because I've always sounded like this. I grew up with my friends. We all knew where we were from.
Right.
Whereas here, obviously, it's a little different. You're in a city, a huge city.
People are trying to place you, in
Right,
their
right.
own mind.
Yeah.
Like based on their own past experiences, as
Right,
opposed
right.
to
Yeah.
experiencing this new thing, this
Right.
new person has a
Right.
completely different background.
Yeah.
And
then you have the when people say, "Oh, I don't know, Kenyan," but they grew up here, born and raised in New York. And that was always something different for me to experience, because in England, or at least around my area, if your grandparents were from somewhere outside of the UK, or even if one of your parents were, you said you were English because that's where you were born and raised.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. For the most part, anyway. I don't want to speak, obviously, for everyone, but
So is that like how you what you identify as, and where you're from? I think are very very different things. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So your parents got you from an orphanage in Brazil.
yeah,
You were 6 months old,
yeah,
and then they took you over to Kent, and that's where you grew
yeah.
up.
So my mum's French. My dad was born in Scotland, but he's English, and they were living in England in Kent.
Okay.
My mum had moved over from France years ago. Both my parents went to university in Liverpool, up north, and
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah, and so that's where they met.
Are they Liverpool friends? Are they fans?
Say again?
Are they fans of Liverpool?
No,
No.
no, my dad's a Southampton supporter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, he's not a Liverpool, no.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I think he'll find that funny, but yeah. So on my mum's 40th birthday, she got a phone call. They were looking to adopt, and she got a phone call saying that they had a boy for them. This guy.
Excellent selection, I have to say, Mom. I mean,
I don't know the whole details with regards to do you choose, like you don't turn up and go, no, I don't want that one. Like, I don't think that's
no, you don't think so?
I'm sure they're not strong-arming people going, well, you said you wanted to adopt, so here's a baby. You can't say no. Like,
It's like random?
Right.
Yeah.
But I actually don't know. Like, I feel as if there's so many questions which I should and feel like I do want to ask my parents, but quite honestly, I forget because I don't have anything inside which feels unresolved perhaps in a way which disrupts my day-to-day.
Right.
Of course, I think about a lot of things with regards to my adoption, but
What are some of those questions?
say again?
What are some of those questions you think about?
I mean, my parents have got a whole box of papers and details from the whole process. Diaries that my mum used to write.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah. Letters.
Your biological mom.
No, my. Oh no, my mum. See, this is the thing.
Right.
It's like my mum is my mum.
Right.
My biological mother was, I believe, 24, about 24 when she had me, and she stayed like for the whole course before I got on a plane to England.
Oh wow,
So
really?
she stuck around, yeah.
Wow. Is that a common thing that parents usually stick around until you're adopted?
I couldn't, I have no idea. I know my parents tried to adopt another boy, and there was a situation where the mother didn't want him to be adopted,
Oh wow.
but she didn't want to look after him. It was something like that. I might be
Interesting.
off with a few things there, but yeah, so they couldn't adopt him. He was about 3 years older than me.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and I don't know how long they kind of house these babies and young kids until they, I don't know, they just, I
But
don't know whether
your
they,
biological mom stuck with, made sure that you were taken care of.
yeah,
And was like, I want to
Yeah.
make sure that.
yeah. She went to the court hearings and everything because it took a while. It's not just a, hey, we have a baby,
Right.
come
She didn't
get
leave
it.
you- She didn't just like leave you, right? So your mom like followed through with like,
Yeah, she stuck about.
wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
And that's definitely something which I feel like I owe her. And, you know, I do kind of flip-flop between wanting to go and find her and, I don't know, thank her or, I don't know. It's a really uncomfortable ground because if I were to ever do that, I would never want to come off in this way where I'm coming back being like, look at me, how much money do you want? I want to do this, and like, thanks, and I've got a great life. That feels really, I mean, obviously I wouldn't approach it that way, but I don't know what way you can approach that if you do want to give back without feeling that you're not looking down, but yeah, even to this day, I find it very hard to articulate this kind of mix of emotions with it. Because we also have family friends who are also adopted from Brazil, and one of the boys did go and he found his birth mother, and I think he spent time with her, and he did try to support her a little bit.
Wow.
So I don't know. I wouldn't want to step on anyone's toes. I don't know what life she has, if she's still alive, that is. I don't know if she's moved on, got married, had kids, has never told anyone.
Right.
So there's a lot there which I'm sure with a private investigator you get briefed and you get told, and when you make contact with someone like that, you probably go through a process where everyone is comfortable. But
Right.
it's, again, this is not something I've truly pursued. I've just entertained in my head ever since I can remember.
You've had an opportunity to reach out to your birth mother at one point, correct?
No. I was put in the paper of quite a big tabloid in Brazil right before the Olympics and around the Olympics.
Right.
And they definitely kind of splashed that in there, and it was a good story, you know, born Brazilian, grows up in England, comes back, helps the Brazil team, they get to the Olympics. I could see the headline, it was a good one.
Wow.
But at the same time, I did feel like I was blindsided a bit by some of the journalists who spoke to me. And I was also naive to it. I was focused and heightened by the adrenaline from playing and coming off the pitch, and when you're being interviewed and stuff,
Right.
and you're just kind of answering questions and moving on and then being guided away, and so I think in hindsight I would have definitely dealt with it differently, but it was fine. I don't think bad happened. It just felt a little dirty, that's all.
Yeah, that is a little. I mean, me personally, I would have definitely been taken aback by it, you know, because dude, like your personal life that you haven't even delved into, you know, just getting splashed in front of the paper obviously is a little jarring. On top of that, you get called to play on the highest level in the
Right.
world,
Right.
and you have to perform,
Right.
you know,
I was just scared that she was going to see it, actually.
really.
I know that sounds really funny because there's so many people in Brazil and it's one paper and it's,
Right.
but that's one way of like seeing and hearing that your son, your birth son,
It's doing all right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's an odd one.
Well, how about going back to, I just want to go back to when you were saying that how can you say that you're doing well without like
Yeah.
throwing it in her face?
I mean, that's definitely a way.
That's that's definitely a way, but I
yeah.
feel like it depends on them. Like I had an instructor that taught me everything that I knew,
Right.
and he, for lack of a better term, abandoned me because I didn't even know this at the time, but I got really sick during training.
How old were you?
I was maybe 20 something years old.
Okay.
At that point, I thought I was invincible because of my coach, and then he just
Right.
said, you know what, you quit during training. But I really had this severe allergic reaction.
Right.
I have this rare disorder called exercise-induced anaphylaxis.
Okay.
It can kill me. If I work out in any level of intensity, I will go into hives.
Okay.
My throat will close. My tongue will swell. Like,
Right.
we didn't know any of this before.
Right.
And so I'm training for the Golden Gloves, and I'm breaking out so bad, like running on the treadmill for like 2 miles, that they call the ambulance, and I get in the ambulance, and they said that if you did not call us, you would be dead because you're about to go into cardiac arrest.
So you called them?
A friend of mine did,
Oh, okay.
because they saw what kind of state I was
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
and then they finally got context. But after that, he kind of cut me off.
Oh.
I came back. I
So
won a
he was
champion.
scared,
He was
basically.
like, he
He
was
was-
scared, but he also didn't want to be tied to any weakness. Very old school mentality,
okay.
you know.
Sorry to cut you off. I thought it was maybe because he was like, I don't want to be the guy to put you in this situation by training you.
No, he just didn't think that I had what it took at that time because he didn't know that I was sick
Okay.
yet.
Oh, okay.
He didn't know. He just thought that I quit because I was tired.
Right.
When I really was just like, something is wrong.
Yeah.
So then eventually I won a title on my own. I didn't have a gym. I didn't have a coach. I won a championship on my own, and I brought the belt back to him. And at no point in my mind did I ever think he's going to be like, eat his words. You know what I mean? I
Right.
was like, thank you.
Yeah.
You cutting me off was the best thing that
Right.
could have happened to me.
Right.
You doing that enabled me to empower myself
Right.
so that I can move forward and become
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
you know, and do me.
Yeah.
What we were talking about yesterday,
Yeah.
right? It takes a lot of strength to just like be Steph. I don't gotta be Brazilian. I don't gotta be English.
Just me.
I'm just me, dog.
Yeah.
You know, and that's enough.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people would be able to resonate with that. I think a lot of people are scared to be themselves. They rather identify themselves as like where they're from, what
Yeah.
their religion is,
Yeah.
what kind of clothes they wear, because it's easier to hide behind that
Right.
than to fully express yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I fuck with you, man. That's why one of the reasons why I had you on the cast, because you've delved into this sense of self-mastery that you've been on this course your whole life, and it was such a unique path, you know, like it's a really incredible, inspiring story to hear, man. I'm really glad that we're friends. I'm really
Yeah,
glad
me
that I met you.
Yeah.
And, you know, where you come from or where we come from, you have to have a very strong mentality. You have to, I think right now people feel like they've been losing a lot.
Right.
And, you know, I think that hearing from some winners would definitely bring people's spirits up.
On top of that, I don't know whether you felt this growing up. I never felt as if I was stronger than anyone else.
Right.
I'm talking mentally.
Right.
I was just pissed off for a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
That's what fueled a lot of my training and desire to.
Become an Olympian. Yeah.
I mean, obviously that became a goal as I got older. It wasn't the Olympics. It was just I want to compete at the highest level
Right.
with the best.
Right.
How that looks, I will let life kind of deal with that, but like I just want to do that. And I was annoyed that I wasn't doing that, even
Right.
at a very young age. But I spoke to one of my clients a few months ago about this, and we're talking about manifesting. And I never realized I was doing that when I was 6, 7 years old. But I would run around the garden, again, highlighting how fortunate I am that I had a garden space to do that.
It was quite lovely, it sounds.
Yeah, running around the garden and just imagining there was a crowd, like singing my name.
Wow.
And like, I was an only child, so I'm playing around with a hockey ball, like by myself, pretending to be different players, arguing with the ref, like
That's awesome.
like
dude.
playing football as well, you know. And and I just, when I would score, I wouldn't even shout. I'd be like, yeah,
Right.
you know, just kind of. And I think when you see kids do that, that is manifestation. That's you
right.
want that, you
Right.
like that. So, and that continued, but just more in my head as I got older. You know, trying to simulate the pressures of game day. You're the one, you have to score this goal, otherwise you're going to be disqualified. All that kind of stuff.
Right, right.
So, yeah, it's the strength. I think I developed actively when I was a bit older, but when I was younger, it was just a natural thing of, I'm annoyed that I'm the shortest, lightest, weakest boy in my age group. So I need to be really skillful, or I need to do something else so that I can be above that.
Right.
And so that's where it stemmed from, really.
Wow. I felt the same way.
Were
I
you
thought-
small at any point?
I was a weak asthmatic, skinny.
I'm not laughing at you being asthmatic, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I was so sick. I remember being paralyzed from the neck down.
What?
Yeah, I was paralyzed from the neck down. I had viral pneumonia, and I had really bad asthma because of the conditions I was living in.
Right.
And I got a cold on top of asthma equals
Right.
viral pneumonia. And I remember being many times paralyzed from the neck down, couldn't move, and then being on so many different IVs. I had IVs in my hands and my feet, you know, and my mom would just take care of me every day. She'd come to the hospital because I could have easily died. And then I remember getting into a wheelchair
Right.
and like learning how to like get the strength to
Right.
walk again.
Yeah.
Like,
So what made you want to?
same. I was so furious. I love like the archetypes of the shadow self.
Right.
If you want to get into Jungian stuff, the shadow self, like Akuma from Street Fighter, or like or Batman is like the shadow self.
Right.
All of these like Justice League characters, all these X-Men characters are just archetypes of our minds of how we categorize different people and
Right.
personalities of
Yeah,
ourselves, right?
yeah.
So I always, like Bane, for example. Bane was like born in a prison, and he was he's the child that he had to kill the person that killed his mom, and not only did he have to avenge himself, he had to become something different. So that mentality is what got
Right.
me training. Like, I'm like watching Dragon Ball Z,
Right.
watching like Goku do
Yeah.
push-ups and 1,000 times Earth gravity,
Right.
and I'm like, that's my vibe right there.
Right.
I'm sick, but I have to become strong in order to survive, especially in a climate.
So this was a survival thing.
Yeah, but I also wanted to dominate. Like, I didn't want
Right,
to just
right.
like, okay, I'm strong.
Yeah.
Nah, I want to be the best.
Yeah.
I want to be the best fighter in the world, ever.
Right.
Ever. Like, I want to transcend. I want to create and change the landscape of martial arts. Like, I only associated myself with, like, greatness. You know, I read everything Bruce Lee ever written, many
I can
times.
tell by your Instagram posts.
Yeah, man. Like, it's very Bruce Lee. It's very, like, existential, but
Right.
simple.
Right.
And I can use that in multiple different contexts.
Right.
It's just like, that's how I lived my life, yo. That's
Yeah.
what kept me going. I didn't have a mentor at that time, so I had to become that. Spider-Man was my mentor, you
Right.
know? So
Yeah.
anyway, man,
Right.
thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's been a long time coming.
We should do
and-
another and talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, I know it's a short period of time, but we're pressed, but yo, we have so many phenomenal
Yeah,
conversations, yo.
Yeah.
There's always some gems when we talk.
We should do one on the floor.
We should do one
At
on the
some
floor.
point, yeah.
Much more comfortable. Yeah, we should do
Yeah.
that.
I mean, you have great conversation. I've always had great conversation with you, but it always comes out of nowhere,
Right,
which
right.
is cool. And then sometimes, even yesterday, before we did this, we're like, wait, save
We gotta
that.
save it for
yeah,
the
right.
podcast because we'll lose it somehow.
Right.
But yo, you're just a phenomenal dude, man.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
It really is a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. That's a wrap for us. I'll see you next episode. Peace.